Hello, and this is going to be a little bit different than my normal gameplay videos. So, on Assetto Corsa, the Topanga map is actually one of the only maps that I actually know in person and have done hundreds, if not thousands, of times because I live in the area. I've had jobs that were on the other side of it, or at least that was the better way to go. So, I've driven this thing lots and lots of times, and I actually have some feedback both for people just trying this thing in Assetto Corsa, but also if you ever happen to come to Los Angeles, I also have some good feedback about being real careful driving up it. It's definitely a dangerous route. You can get ahead of yourself or a little bit out of control in some of these corners. They're a lot sharper than they think, or they're a lot sharper than you would think. And there's debris, there's rocks and stuff that fall down. People have been killed by boulders falling off the mountains. And I myself, after many times of, hundreds, if not thousands of times of driving this thing with no issues, my last trip down there, I hit a rock on the side of the road trying to let a motorcycle pass me from behind. And I was not happy about that. Blew out my tire, messed up my alignment, cost me like $300 by the time I was done. Maybe it's good that motorcyclist didn't stop. Not that anything was going to happen, but I don't think it would have been a fun conversation for either of us. And it's pretty douchey of him to do that. But anyway, I digress. So for the hill climb this time, I'm going to use the C1 Corvette from 1959. It's one of my favorite classic cars in Assetto Corsa in AC. And it's just a really cool car. It's kind of heavy. You feel the weight. It's got a good engine. It's not too powerful though, so you don't get too much crazy torque. So my advice, if you're ever taking it from either direction, is to go real slow in the beginning. I know when I first got AC and I was trying all kinds of muscle cars, and I know this drive, and I was trying to haul it up here, and it's real easy to lose it on any of these really sharp corners coming up. So in real life, just take your time. And I'll point out that even though I'm going to do this time faster than you would in real life, because I'm going to be going in the opposing lane and just doing things as if no one were on the road. In real life, you don't want to do that. So definitely don't use the time here for a realistic drive or a realistic idea of how long it would take you. Because in real life, you're going to have other cars. You're not going to be able to go into the other lane to shorten the corners, things like that. And it's definitely a busy part of Los Angeles. So yeah, definitely take it easy. Speaking of which, it's one of these first couple corners. I think either I just passed it or we're about to pass it where, I had a motorcyclist behind me. He decided right on the corner to decide to want to pass. It was right up behind me. And I edged over literally 1 inch too much. And there was a stupid boulder past right here. Right where you see these white lines and stuff. It was I was cutting the corner. He was cutting the corner behind me. I edged it a little bit to the side. Boom. Got my tire. And then, I felt it. Tire was totally blown. Sidewall. I had to pull over right there. So right where those trucks are, I had to wait for a AAA there. Pretty spooky. Wasn't too happy about it. But it did turn out the AAA person was really a saint. I mean, it was like an angel sent from above. He fixed my car 3 different ways. He did all the extra effort. Really put my mind at ease. So this isn't a commercial for AAA, but I highly recommend them. And I'll just say that I know I already put it in the manager for this guy's ticket, but this guy did an awesome job. Really, really made AAA look like a really good company. This guy was above and beyond in one of the most dangerous parts of LA to get stuck in terms of just a bad road where a lot of traffic's coming through, not a lot of room, etc. So this is the uphill part, and it's still relatively flat, but you're starting to get uphill, and it's going to be deceptive where it'll seem like it's a straightaway, but then there's some really wicked curves, and people are coming down this thing sometimes too fast or cutting corners. So in real life, you definitely got to watch it, and if you try to power through this thing in a muscle car and get to going too fast, you will eat it on one of these corners. In fact, one of these corners coming up, I actually did oversteer and over torque and almost went into the corner myself. And I know this track. This is the only track I've really driven in real life, though admittedly I've only done it on front wheel drive vehicles. I've never done it on a rear wheel drive vehicle, and I've only driven automatics in my life. So that's the thing to count to. But you can see I'm having a hard time. I think right around here was where I lost it. Like a little too hard into the corner. So yeah, you definitely in real life you can't be like going into like opposing traffic like lanes like this. I did have a crazy friend when I was a teenager who did like some really fast driving with me as a passenger in here, and this person was like a kind of an expert driver for his age, but still it's pretty dangerous. And it was like, you know, nobody was on the road and other stuff was going on, but it was pretty nuts. I mean, I don't think we ever really did that again. But also it was like on a different part of Topanga. It's further up the stretch of this part. This part is just like nuts. And what's crazy, if you come down the other way, it gets real crowded during rush hour. So you can be coming down and think it's all straight ahead of you, and then all of a sudden traffic stops and you won't know. So that's the other good reason to not go fast through here in real life. But on the on AC, yeah, you can get away with going about second, maybe third gear coming up here, but you really got to watch it on the corners to not get too ahead of yourself and get ready to like maybe downshift or just, you know, take your foot off the gas. Now here's the actual town of Topanga. You start getting to the southern outskirts of it. And it's just a little small town. A lot of the houses are up in like these little valleys branching away from it. In real life, you definitely don't want to go through there too fast. Sure there's cops, sheriff, PCI, like a lot of different entities can cover this between PCH and CHP, California Highway Patrol, but I think it's mostly sheriff. And yeah, like I mean, there's like a post office right there. That building right there, I think, is where the post office is. It's a cool curve in real life. It's a nice, like, you can kind of feel some G's on this corner. And then coming out of it, in real life, there's like an elementary school traffic light right there. There's a school up the little hill there. In real life, that same crazy friend and another dude, we actually, like, for fun, because we were dumb teenagers, went up to see one of those big Topanga fires when it was going on in the mid 90s, and we actually we snuck in and then ended up sneaking out, not to do anything, just to see it. We were just out one night and just the fire was going on, and then the friend did like crazy driving, and then we actually came back out this way with all the refugees and stuff from the fire. It's pretty nutty. Only time I ever did something like that, and obviously it was just a dumb teenager thing to do. I don't recommend that. And these days you could get a lot of trouble if they thought you were like a looter or something, and we never even thought of that. We were Boy Scouts literally, so we didn't know. Here you can see you start to get some really curvy part in between kind of this is like sort of the middle act of Topanga, and it's, you know, there's some slope to it, but it's a lot of like back and forth. So, you know, you can kind of get some good practice sort of working the corners. You're going to have to watch some of these corners, even like on our front wheel drive vehicle. Sometimes I'll feel myself going a little fast into those corners and get freaked out. But what we're heading towards is like this big giant curve that sort of marks like the bottom of the first descent. And for us, it's going to mark like the next major ascent point of this climb till we almost get to the top. So coming up is the part where we're going to start to actually do like a full-out real climb, including Dead Man's Curve. So I guess the argument is whether this big curve coming up is the Dead Man's Curve or whether the other one is. I've heard it on the scanner before. Heard the county fire people call it Dead Man's Curve, and I guess the question is which one's which. So I guess we'll figure it out pretty shortly. This is like the northern outskirts of Topanga. There's a bunch of cool stuff like galleries and restaurants. And so there's like art fairs. Around there. little bit south of there. There's a Shakespeare like garden place. It's pretty cool, but you know, it gets busy. So it's another reason in real life why you wouldn't go ripping through there at like 80. It's just like a good chance of maybe skewering somebody. Now we're coming up to Dead Man's Curve, and at least I believe that's what it is. That's what the county called it. I was trying to figure out why they call it Dead Man's Curve, because it's not, I mean, it's a harsh corner, but it's not horrible. I mean, if you do it both ways, if you just watch your speed, you're not feeling it too much, and actually you can kind of accelerate into it. But I think it's because there might be a tendency for people to jump into the other lane coming back down, and that might be why it's Dead Man's Curve, because might go smack into somebody. I've never actually seen that, though, driving through here. And now we're in the final stretch. You can really floor it through here in AC. Don't do it in real life, because there's actually, in real life, cops. They're going to be right at the top of this hill. There's a lookout up there if you ever drive this and stop. Up there is a beautiful view. Top of Topanga. So we are just mere hundreds of yards from the top. And that's going to end up with a big vista in front of us and trivia. And the vista that's about to open up in front of us on the top of Topanga, I grew up on one of the hills that's immediately visible. So over to the right, there's the cops. Yep, there's the turnout. And one of those little hills kind of down there, lower elevation, I grew up, I think, in the one you can see. Or just adjacent to one of the, yep. Yeah, that over on the right, that's where I grew up. So this is very familiar to me. I've been going up and down this a good chunk of my life. Growing up, my sisters and I didn't used to love it so much because we had a minivan, and if you sat in the back, you could get car sick pretty easily, even if you're not a car sick person. It's just like a lot of G's at the back of a long vehicle. So that's the one thing. If you have anybody that's car sick, make them ride in the front. Or don't do it, because it's a lot of stuff, and you got to really watch yourself coming down here too, because the thing about Topanga is it's a bunch of like pretty challenging curves, but especially the beginning and the end of it are both pretty challenging. I would say the no matter which way you go. So the northern end of it, which is we're going down now, the final stretch, it's actually pretty challenging as well. You really got to watch your speed, especially in AC, because you want to go fast. In real life, you would definitely be taking your time and definitely be feeling it, because it's a pretty severe downhill. You see, we got to lose all that elevation, or a lot of it. The valley's still like about 900 feet plus up from sea level. When you're going to the valley, you're going to the hills, which is adjacent. You're right adjacent, actually, to Calabasas when you end this thing. So, yeah. And yep, there's sort of, this is actually the final turn I think we're getting into. And there is kind of a wicked little curve here coming up at the end. And when I do the other video going south, I have a little anecdote about that. But one of the only times I was ever in a car that went off the road was on this corner, going the other way. So be careful. And in real life, there's a bunch of neighborhoods. You're hitting traffic and a big stoplight down there at Topanga, so, or Topanga Mulholland. So yeah, anyway, if you enjoyed this, let me know. Thanks for hanging out, and now I'll put on the replay and you get a chance to see like what it looked like from the outside. That's my only time where I kind of messed up there, but I did save it somehow. here we go. To Dead Man's Cove.